What you are about to hear may explain something you have never been able to understand. Someone recently told your soulmate to stay away from you. It was not a close friend, a jealous person, or someone who simply disliked you. It was a stranger, a woman your soulmate had never met before. She appeared at a strange moment when your soulmate was already thinking deeply about you. The first thing she said was so direct and specific that your soulmate immediately realized this was not a normal conversation. She looked at them and said, "You need to be careful with that person." Your soulmate asked, "Which person?" The woman mentioned you. Then everything suddenly became uncomfortable because she did not ask for your name. She did not ask who you were. She spoke as if she had already seen you somewhere or somehow knew something about you. Your soulmate became uneasy. They wanted to understand how this stranger could possibly know anything about you, but instead of giving an explanation, the woman asked a question. Have you noticed how different you feel whenever that person enters your thoughts? Your soulmate became silent. That question touched something very deep, because the answer was yes, there was something about you they had never been able to explain. They could spend an entire day without thinking about you, and then one tiny thing would suddenly bring everything back. A familiar song, a certain place, an unexpected memory, a sentence someone spoke, and suddenly you were there again. You were not physically present, but you were present in their mind. Somehow, your presence had remained even when you were nowhere near them. The stranger watched their reaction carefully. Then she said, "That is exactly why I am telling you to walk away." Your soulmate asked why. This time the woman answered without hesitation, "Because you do not understand what this connection is going to do to you." Those words remained inside your soulmate's mind long after the conversation ended. Maybe you have felt something similar yourself. Maybe you have wondered why this connection refuses to completely disappear. Why silence never feels like a real ending. Why distance seems to create more questions instead of fewer. Why your soulmate can look completely detached at one moment and then appear deeply affected the next. There is a reason for this, but you are not meant to hear the entire answer immediately. First, you need to understand what happened before this stranger appeared. Your soulmate had already been trying to make an important decision. They had reached a point where they wanted certainty. One part of them wanted to forget you. Another part continued searching for an explanation for what they felt. They had considered walking away completely. No more checking, no more wondering. No more replaying old conversations. No more imagining what could happen if the two of you met again. They wanted peace. They wanted to stop carrying questions that had no clear answers. Then the stranger appeared, and suddenly that decision became much more difficult. Her warning created a question your soulmate could not push away. What if there was something about you they had never truly noticed? What if the version of you they believed they understood was only part of the real story? What if the person they had judged was not actually the person you were inside? That thought disturbed them. So they asked the stranger, "What exactly do you know about this person?" The woman looked away for a moment before answering enough to tell you that leaving may not be as simple as you think. Your soulmate stared at her. That was not the answer they expected. They wanted a clear reason to forget you. Instead, she had given them another mystery, and mysteries become dangerous when the heart is already involved. My child, listen carefully. You have spent enough time wondering whether someone truly understands your heart. You have watched people judge you from the outside. You have seen people make conclusions based on one mistake. You have experienced moments when your silence was mistaken for weakness. Your distance was called indifference, and your kindness was taken for granted. Sometimes your pain was hidden so well that people assumed you had never been hurt at all. But heaven sees what people cannot see. In this message, Jesus speaks not through fear, but as a reminder that your value was never decided by another person's opinion. You do not need to make yourself smaller so someone else can feel comfortable. You do not need to chase someone who remains confused about your worth. And you certainly do not have to prove your heart to someone who has already chosen not to understand it. Archangel Michael stands here as a symbol of protection and discernment. His message is simple. Do not allow fear to make your decisions, because fear has a strange ability to turn incomplete information into absolute conclusions. That is exactly what was happening with your soulmate. The stranger knew something, but she did not know everything. Those two things are very different. Your soulmate had not understood that yet. They only knew that this woman was speaking with an unusual level of certainty. So they asked her again, "Why are you so concerned about me being with this person?" The stranger took a slow breath. Then she said something that made your soulmate's heart drop. "Because if you get too close, they may become the one person who sees through you." Your soulmate froze. That was not really an accusation against you. It was an exposure of them. For the first time, they began to understand that the stranger was not truly talking about what you might do to them. She was talking about what being close to you might reveal inside them. Their fears, their insecurities, their unfinished past, the emotions they had buried, the truth they had spent years avoiding. Suddenly, the warning sounded completely different. Maybe the danger was not you. Maybe the danger was what they would have to face within themselves. Your soulmate thought about every moment they had spent with you. They remembered the way you looked at them. They remembered conversations that seemed ordinary at the time, but somehow stayed in their memory. They remembered moments when you understood something they had not even explained. They remembered how strangely peaceful silence could feel when you were together. Then another memory came back, one they had almost forgotten. You had once said something that remained with them. You probably did not realize how important those words would become, but they remembered them. That single memory made your soulmate question everything, because the stranger had just described something you had unknowingly shown them for a long time. You saw them, not the image they showed other people, not the confident version, not the carefully controlled version. You noticed what they tried to hide, and that frightened them. Now listen carefully to what happened next. Your soulmate went back to the stranger and asked one final question. "If you know so much about this person, then tell me who they really are." The woman became completely silent for several seconds. She said nothing. Then she looked directly at your soulmate and whispered, "You are asking the wrong question." Your soulmate frowned. "What should I be asking?" The woman moved slightly closer. What she said next was the reason your soulmate could not sleep that night. You should be asking why heaven allowed you to meet them in the first place. Your soulmate felt a chill because suddenly the entire connection looked different. The timing, the separation, the unexpected meetings, the strange coincidences, the emotions that refused to disappear. Everything seemed connected. But the stranger was not finished. She had one more thing to reveal, something she had intentionally kept hidden until she believed your soulmate was ready. She looked at them and said, "There is something about your soulmate that you have completely misunderstood." Your soulmate asked, "What?" The woman's expression changed. Then she gave them a warning that had nothing to do with heartbreak, betrayal, or losing someone. It was about your identity. She said, "If you discover who that person really is, you will understand why you were never able to forget them." That was the moment your soulmate realized something frightening. The stranger had not appeared to destroy the connection. She had appeared because she knew a secret about you, a secret your soulmate had never been told. Before she walked away, she gave them one final sentence. "Whatever you do, do not judge them by what happened before you met them." Your soulmate stood there completely still. Now they had only one question: what happened before you met them, and why would a complete stranger know about it? That answer is where everything begins to change. Because the truth about you was not what your soulmate believed, and when they finally discovered it, they would understand why this connection survived every attempt to end it. Your soulmate could not stop thinking about those words. Do not judge them by what happened before you met them. There was something unusual about that sentence. It sounded less like advice and more like a clue. For the first time, your soulmate wondered whether the person they thought they knew was only one chapter of a much larger story. They remembered your first conversations, the guarded answers, and the moments when you changed the subject whenever your past came up. They remembered how your expression sometimes became distant without any obvious reason. They had noticed these things before. They simply never understood them. Now they began looking at every memory differently. Meanwhile, the stranger had disappeared. Your soulmate tried to find her again. There was no contact, no explanation, and no obvious connection between her and you. It was almost as if she had appeared for one specific purpose and vanished the moment that purpose was complete. But one thing bothered your soulmate more than anything. The stranger had used a phrase that nobody else seemed to know. It was connected to a moment from your past, something you had once said quietly during a conversation. Your soulmate remembered it because you had spoken with unusual seriousness that day. You had said, "Some things about me are better understood later." At the time, your soulmate thought you were simply being mysterious. Now those words felt completely different. They started wondering whether you had known all along that your life contained something they were not ready to understand. That question created a new kind of tension. Your soulmate wanted answers, but they also felt guilty for wanting them because deep down they realized something. You had never demanded that they understand everything. You had simply wanted to be accepted for who you were in the present. Perhaps that was what made the stranger's warning so powerful. She had given your soulmate a reason to doubt you, but she had also given them a reason to look deeper. That night, your soulmate opened an old conversation between you. They read it again, and then read it once more, not because they were searching for romance, but because they were searching for evidence. They wanted to find something hidden, some clue, some sentence that could explain why this connection felt different from everything that had come before. Then they found something. It was a message from you that had seemed completely ordinary when you first sent it, but now it looked almost prophetic. You had told them, "Someday you'll understand why I couldn't tell you everything." Your soulmate stared at the screen. Their heart began beating faster because you had never explained what you meant. They had forgotten that message until this moment. Now the stranger's warning returned again. Do not judge them by what happened before you met them. Your soulmate started wondering what you had survived. What had forced you to become so guarded? What had taught you to hide your pain so carefully? Who had hurt you enough that trusting people became difficult? But another possibility appeared. Maybe your past was not only about pain. Maybe it also contained something powerful, something that explained your unusual strength. That thought led your soulmate to examine the way you treated people. Even when someone disappointed you, you rarely tried to destroy them. You walked away, even when you were hurt. You often chose silence instead of revenge. When someone misunderstood you, you sometimes allowed them to believe whatever they wanted. At the time, this behavior seemed strange. Now, it looked intentional. You had learned something important. Not everyone deserves access to your deepest truth. And learning that lesson had cost you something. Your soulmate could feel it. For the first time, they stopped asking, "What is wrong with this person?" and began asking what happened to them. That change matters because curiosity can open a door that fear keeps locked. Once that door opened, memories started connecting. Your soulmate remembered one particular conversation. You had been talking about the future, and they had asked you what you wanted. Your answer was surprisingly simple. Peace. Not money, not attention, not recognition, just peace. Your soulmate had laughed at the time. Now they understood why you had said it. Someone who has experienced enough chaos eventually stops chasing noise. They begin to value quiet. They stop explaining every decision. They become selective about who they allow close. Perhaps that was why your soulmate sometimes felt as though you were impossible to read. You were not impossible to understand or simply careful. There is a difference. That decision became harder when another strange event happened. Your soulmate received a message from someone they had not spoken with in a long time. The message contained only one sentence. Be careful who you believe. Your soulmate immediately thought of the stranger. Then they looked at your name on their phone. For several seconds they considered contacting you. They typed something, deleted it, and tried again. They still did not know what to ask. How could they possibly say, "A stranger warned me about you, and now I am trying to understand whether she was right"? So they said nothing. But silence did not bring peace. Instead, it created even more tension because your soulmate had started noticing something else. Whenever they tried to convince themselves that you were bad for them, their own memories pushed back. You had been there during moments when they felt alone. You had listened without demanding anything. You had encouraged them when they doubted themselves. You noticed details other people ignored. And perhaps most importantly, you never tried to control them. That realization unsettled your soulmate, because if the stranger was correct, where was the evidence? There was not much. There was fear, assumption, and a warning without a complete explanation. Finally, your soulmate understood something. A warning without truth can become manipulation. So, they made a decision. They would not blindly follow the stranger. They would observe, not secretly, not obsessively. They simply wanted to see who you were when nobody was trying to impress anyone. They watched how you reacted to disappointment. They noticed how you treated people who had nothing to offer you. They paid attention to what happened when you were angry. Slowly, something unexpected happened. Their fear began to disappear. Not completely, but enough. Your actions did not match the story they had been given. Then came the moment that changed everything. Your soulmate saw you helping someone who had once hurt you. There was no audience and no reason for you to perform. You could have ignored that person. Instead, you stopped. You listened. You helped. Then you walked away without asking for thanks. Your soulmate watched from a distance. Suddenly, the stranger's words returned. You have no idea who you are dealing with. But this time, your soulmate understood the sentence differently. Maybe the stranger had not meant that you were dangerous. Maybe she meant that your depth was greater than they realized. Maybe she had seen something powerful in you, something she feared they would misunderstand. That night, your soulmate made another discovery. They found an old photograph connected to a period of your life you had never discussed. They looked carefully. Then they noticed something in the background. A person, a place, a symbol, something that made the entire situation more confusing because that detail appeared connected to the stranger. Your soulmate's hands became cold. The woman had not appeared randomly. She had known where to find them. She had known about you, and now there was evidence that she had some connection to a chapter of your life you had never explained. Your soulmate stared at the photograph for a long time. Then the phone rang. Unknown number. They almost ignored it. Almost. But something inside them told them to answer. They picked up. There was silence on the other side. Then a woman's voice spoke. You found it. Your soulmate froze. They recognized the voice. It was the stranger. Before they could ask how she got their number, she continued, Now you understand why I told you to stay away. Your soulmate demanded an explanation. The woman remained quiet for a moment. Then she said something that changed the meaning of everything. I never said they were going to hurt you. A long silence followed. Your soulmate whispered, Then what were you warning me about? The stranger took a breath. Her answer was almost impossible to understand. I was warning you about what will happen when they finally remember who they are. Your soulmate's heart seemed to stop for a moment. The question was no longer whether you were dangerous. It was something much bigger. What exactly did this woman know about you? And why did she believe your soulmate would be changed by the truth? Before the call ended, the stranger gave one final instruction. Do not ask them yet. Your soulmate asked why. The woman replied, Because they are not ready to tell you. Then the call ended. Your soulmate sat completely still. The room was silent. The photograph remained in front of them. Your name was still on their screen. For the first time, they realized the secret was not simply about your past. It might involve something you had forgotten yourself, something buried so deeply that even you might not know the complete truth. And that is where the real mystery begins, because the stranger was not afraid of what you might do to your soulmate. She was afraid of what your soulmate would discover once the hidden part of you finally awakened. Your soulmate did not sleep that night. The stranger's final words continued moving through their mind. They are not ready to tell you. But what exactly were you not ready to tell them? And why would a complete stranger know something about your life that even your soulmate had never discovered? There seemed to be only one way to find out. Your soulmate decided to go back through every memory connected to you. Not only the beautiful moments. Everything. The misunderstandings, the distance, the sudden changes in your mood, the times you became quiet without explanation, the moments when you seemed to know what they were feeling before they even spoke. Something began to stand out. You had always reacted differently to pain. Most people demanded answers. You became quiet. Most people wanted revenge. You chose distance. Most people tried to prove they were right. You often walked away. Your soulmate had once mistaken this behavior for emotional detachment. Now they wondered if it was actually discipline. Maybe you had learned long ago that not every battle deserved your energy. That realization changed the way they remembered you. Then something even stranger happened. Your soulmate began dreaming about you. They were not ordinary romantic dreams. They were vivid and almost symbolic. In one dream, your soulmate saw you standing in a place surrounded by darkness. You were not afraid. You were simply standing.